So in this video, I'm going to be installing the Brey Krause lap belt mount kit, which is a set of clips that allow you to have 4, 5, or 6-point harnesses that run across your lap, along with a harness bar in a Corvette for tracking the vehicle. So there's a second video that shows the installation of the Vetworks Shark Bar. This video is just going to focus on the battle I'm going to have with the seats and the process to actually install the clips on the seat. So it's pretty straightforward. The first thing we do is we remove the seat belt from the seat here, and then we're going to run the seat backwards and forwards to get access to the bolts that hold the seat to the vehicle in the rear and in the front. And then you actually unplug the battery once you've used the electric seat adjuster to move it backwards and forwards. You'll unplug the battery, disconnect the seats, and then they actually have you remove the seats from the vehicle, which is not too difficult, I don't think, because we're going to take that Targa roof off. So it'll give us plenty of room to pull them out. Driver's side will actually be a little bit harder because you have a steering wheel to deal with, I think. And then you attach the brackets to the seat by removing some of the hardware that the belts use. And then from there, you put the seat back in, reattach things, and reconnect the battery. So I'm going to start here. First step, it says, is to pop this little plastic thing open. So I'm going to get a tool, one of the trim tools, to pop that open. And then there's supposed to be a Torx in there to remove the belt from the seat. So we'll see how that works. So I'm going to go down in here, kind of fight it. That was easy, I guess. Looks like there's 4 clips, and didn't look like I boogered this up too bad. This one might be stretched a little, but I think it'll go back together. And then there's your Torx that you're going to get into to remove the connection of the seatbelt. And this is simply, you're going to have a clip that's going to be right here that's going to come up out and go forward for your lap clip. We're removing this for no reason other than if you go to pull the seat out of the car for the rest of it, this will be attached to it, and that'll kind of suck because you'll be dragging the car along with the seat. So I didn't show how to undo the Torx bolt, but I was like, I got it off, and I'm like, how the hell does this thing come apart? So you actually push it forward, and it comes off. So thought that might be a useful piece of information, because after I took it off, I'm like, do I need to pull off the plastic? Like, how's this thing come off? It just has little clips that hold it on there. Kind of an ingenious design. I guess it should be, because this is what saves your life, right? All right, so now with the seatbelt off, I put the bolt back in the hole just so I wouldn't lose it when the seat comes out. I've moved the seat all the way forward, and I have put a 15mm socket on the bolts, or on the bolt that, or the nut on the bolt that holds the seat in. And so instructions say to take the rear ones off first, and then use the power seat to get this, to drive the seat all the way to the rear. And then there's some clips in the front we'll have to pull off, plastic trim, to get to those bolts to take that off. So I'm going to get this one out and do that, and then I will also run the passenger seat forward and remove those. So I just ran the seat backwards from not close to the pedals to close to the back of the car, and apparently I need to remove these 2 fancy trim pieces that hide the component that we need to remove, which is a bolt, or a nut, I mean. And the instructions say pull these up at 45 degrees. I'm not real confident. I hate doing interior stuff. Try this one. Oh! Yeah, it is 45 degrees. I put a lot of effort into it. There. So now we will take 15mm there, 15 millimeter there, and the seat will be free from the car, but we don't take it out of the car yet. I think after you remove those two, the instructions are to run the seat forward again, probably so you can get it out the door. And then we're going to have to dig around under here, and there's a couple of plugs we need to find. I got to read the instructions to see exactly where they are. That yellow one is one of them. There are 2 plugs to the seat, but you don't do those until you have disconnected the battery. So we will get these off on both the driver and the passenger side. I'll run the seats forward, and then I shall consult the instructions. All right, I've removed front and rear nuts on the passenger seat, and I've run the seat all the way on both sides. Now we're going to the back of the car, which this trim panel has torn off for the shark bar install that I'm also doing, but removing that panel makes it incredibly easy. If you don't know where the battery is in your C7, to access the battery in your C7. So that's why I combined these 2 activities, so I could get to the battery to disconnect the ground easily, because the next step is to unplug both seats, and my guess is that you'll get codes if you don't have the battery disconnected. That's it. 10 mil socket. There's the terminal. There's the cable. My Corvette is officially dead. Kind of sad, but also kind of good. Now I can go unplug seats. All right, this is where stuff gets stupid. So see how close, like this is my hand, the seat is to the dash? I gotta get up in here, and I don't even know how the hell I'm gonna film this. But there's that connector. I might look up my nose, I don't know what you're gonna see. This connector right here is what needs to be done. So you gotta push that back, I guess. There's a clip holding it. Gotta push the clip in. Yeah, that's really not easy. Ow. Push the clip up, maybe. Push the clip down, push the clip up. Yeah, cool. All right, I have regrouped. Let's talk about this plug for a minute. There is no way in hell I'm going to get it from this vantage point, I don't think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the seat off of back here, off of those points, and off the front, so I can shift the whole seat back and have a little bit more room to work. I'm then going to prop the seat in the front with a block of wood. Now, there's no way I can film this, but you can see just by me back here, if you watch this, one arm here under the back of the seat, it moves really easy. So I'm going to lift it up out of here, move it back, and prop it. And then we'll talk about how this plug comes out. So I just grabbed the seat by back here, and up front in the middle, lift it right straight up, and it comes right off of the bolts, and you can see I've slid this back. It's back a good 3 inches. There's the bolt that it sits on. So now we can come up here to the front, block of wood, and prop this bad boy. So I'm just gonna lift it. There's quite a bit of play in the cable, to be honest, I discovered. So the steering wheel is sort of my nemesis on this side. If I had it to do over again, before I disconnected the battery, I would have raised the steering wheel all the way. Not in the instructions, probably should be. So put that under there, give us a little room to work. And now you can see the cable, it's not too tight. And let's talk about this. So hopefully you can see there's a red tab back there. That is the key. On the back of this, you will push that red tab back towards the back of the car. It will click, and then if we can get this balanced, so there's this red tab back here. There, it clicked. Now this will swing, well, it should swing. Maybe I can get the tab clicked. You know what's awesome about YouTube videos? Watching another human being struggle. So I had to get up and swear for a minute. So this thing here, I clicked the red tab back. This little thing here, you need to push in. Then this swings forward, and the process of it swinging forward actually disengages it. So then the last thing to do is there's one of these little trim pieces here, which is of course in the most inconvenient location to work on it. But if you can get a tool on it, just sort of work it down, which of course won't work, because why would it? You just got to get this off of here, and once you get this off of here, the seat is free to be removed from the vehicle. And since this thing isn't coming, I'm going to stop the video and go scream into a pillow. Never mind, I don't have to scream into a pillow. It's off. So with that plug off, now it's time to remove the seat from the car according to the instructions. So they have you take the target top off, which I have done. But then I got to thinking. So ultimately what we're trying to do is install these brackets on the inside of the seats on that seat belt buckle basically. And then these other ones will go on the outside back here where this one is. And if you're wondering why are mine black and yours are silver, I took the time to powder coat these using the Harbor Freight powder coater because I didn't like the looks of the bright stainless silver in the car. Having seen these installed in other cars, I thought this would be a little more subtle. So they also give you a hardware kit, and the process is basically pull the seat out. You're going to use, according to the instructions, a Torx 50 over there, and then you're going to mess around with this plastic trim piece here to be able to get down here to install this guy down in here. So the first thing I thought was, well, that seems like a lot of work to get to one thing over there. This side I can certainly work on in the car by putting a block of wood under it like I did up front. So I thought, well, hey, can we just put a towel here? Let me move these. But can we put a towel here so that the buttons and controls and stuff don't push directly on the car frame? And if we come to this side, how possible is it to work on this? And it's simple. It's right there. So rather than the drama of actually pulling this thing out of the car, I'm just going to tip the seat. All I'm doing is putting my hand on it and tipping the seat over. I'll be able to get a Torx 50 on there, remove that, and then I'll show you how the bracket will be installed. Unfortunately, I don't have a third arm, which would be so handy in so many situations. So I'm going to have to remove that and then just show you once it's removed. But again, if you can't visualize a socket going into there and twisting away, you probably shouldn't be doing this. So I've backed this out, and there's a surprise that wasn't in the instructions. There's a retaining washer on the inside here. So I'm going to have to hack that off while being very respectful of the wiring. The wiring is obviously what tells the car that you've plugged in your regular seatbelt. So I'm going to have to get that off because the kit includes a slightly longer bolt to replace this so that the thickness of the bracket that'll be out here is accepted and you still have enough thread engagement. So now I'm going to have to figure out how to get that retaining washer off. So first things first, I ended up taking a piece of 2x4, putting it under the back here and wedging it in. And this is not an easy thing to work on. So perhaps removing the seat from the vehicle would be easier. But again, I do worry about those, gouging the trim, chipping the paint. In the front, there's not as much, but there is the rack that hangs down. I could see that hitting the door, screwing up the steering wheel, and I'm just not that coordinated on my own. So I think what I'm going to try to do now is I've got a couple of pliers, screwdriver, and I'm going to get a pair of wire cutters. And that's just one of those thin retaining washers. So I'll either be able to work it free and spin it off, or if that doesn't work, I'll cut it off. So after a bunch of off-camera screwing around, this actually was really easy. I used a pair of cutters to sort of get into, if you look at how this is set up, I didn't really realize it when I was trying to film it, there's an opening right in there. So you can get a pair of cutters down in there, sort of like this. And that allowed me to clip the corner of that. And then a pair of just small bent needle nose, I was able to grab a hold, that piece snapped off. I then grabbed a hold of that edge, bent it up, and the whole thing fell out. So now with that removed, I'm actually going to be able to put this back, and you can see this is indexed. There's a piece of metal that sticks out of there. It goes in that hole so that it's indexed and aligned correctly. And then the Brey Krause clip will go here on the outside. So pretty easy to do. Now the one thing, when we look at the clips, you'll see they're sort of oblong. Now there's great debate in the world of these, whether they should be installed this way, which I believe is how they're shown on the website, or this way. Well, I've been told, due to the incredibly small clearances between the seat and the center console with the carpet, the way to install these is probably like this. Because if you put them on like that, you have more material right up here to rub against that carpet and make a groove. Whereas here, you kind of minimize the opportunity for that. So I'm going to install it. Basically, this is going to go on like that. And then they provide a new bolt and washer, which will go in that hole and lock it all up. And I think I'll probably put a little bit of Loctite in there as well. This one, when I backed it out, left some red Loctite residue, and I don't think I have any red left, but I think I'll put a little bit of blue in there just because this is, after all, the seatbelt for the car. All right, I'm gonna do that. Gonna put our clip in here. And then this is going in that hole. So they provide hardware in the kit, and they tell you to use the shorter of the set of bolts that they give you for this. So get it lined up. I'm trying to work around the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Fortunately, I can't see what I'm doing. Perfect fit, obviously, since nothing's going in. Sweet. Try this again here. There we go. Or not. Yeah, I think we're going. Yep. Woohoo! And this is a, what is this? Turn it and see. We'll all discover together. 16 millimeter. So that's how it's going to go. Now the thing here that's kind of interesting with regards to this is this sort of, you're going to index this yourself. Obviously this is self-indexed, so you're going to kind of want to figure out where you want this in terms of positioning before you tighten it down all the way. I'm going to try to keep it sort of in line with this. Now, it may be a little weird. Maybe I'll put it right above it. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll put it right above it so that, or below it. Maybe it's hidden a little better if it's below it. Maybe that's what I'll do, right there. Look at that. See, we're discovering together the beauty of the interwebs. And there we go, tight. You can see how I've got it aligned just below there. I think that kind of keeps it out of the way. You can also see that eccentric piece sort of sticks in, and then the flusher side is going to be up against the tunnel there. So that's it. This inside one is done. Obviously, you need to recreate that same experience on the passenger side, but it's done here, and now I can remove my shoe and the block of wood from the inside of the seat, and then start working on the outboard side for the other clip. So the outboard seat actually seems a little easier to do. Obviously, you're outside the car, you're not hunched over, and the goal here is to get down in there to be able to basically recreate the same sort of thing. Difference being, on this side, we'll be using one of these, which I think actually goes like that, because the goal is to have this come up through this rubbery area. So I think this one should be a little bit easier. The only challenge here is going to be fighting with getting this trim piece off. As you can see, I did use my 2x4 to lift this side of the seat. The seat is like very kitty corner, kitty wampus now, but I think I should be totally fine to be able to do what I need to do here. If I need to come up a little bit more, I can just put another piece of wood under here and access it. For my 2 cents in this process, knowing that that inside one that you can see right there is the hardest one to do, I think the process of not yanking the seats out of the car is totally worth it. So the instructions for this, I said I was going to pull off this plastic piece. I started pulling on it, and then I read the instructions. There's a Torx 20 here on the back, just above the rear track. So this Torx 20 here is what I need to take off. Then this will disengage. There's a clip, but the Torx 20 holds it to that clip. So that'll disengage. And apparently, that's all I have to do. I'll be able to pull this out far enough to be able to get to the hardware down in there to attach the piece. So we'll see. We're going to get that Torx 20 first. Torx 20 came right out. It was only finger tight, just using that. Of course, then I dropped it. So there it is. And the instructions say, once you do that, you can... So if I look in here, so I'm pulling this out, you can see there's a metal clip right there that has this engaged. And it actually doesn't look like your standard clip. It looks like I'm going to pull up on this. Oh, which I did, see? You pull up. This little housing just slides down over that piece. Pull up, and looky, looky. There's the Torx we need to get to on this side to remove this seatbelt attachment point. So I'm going to actually tip the seat up a little bit more. I'm binding a little bit here, and I think this will come out a lot further just by raising this side, maybe another piece of 2x4, and then I can get my ratchet on that Torx there, and we're off to the races. This piece will come right off. Much better. Took this 2x4, placed it so it's up here, put a 4x4 under that side, and now this piece comes way out. Easy peasy. I can get a wrench right in there, no problem, to back that out. So that's the next step here. Righto, so that came out, but it was a challenge because it's a giant piece. I think there's like a gas canister in there for something, probably related to emergency crashes. So this plug needed to come out of that right there. And the way you'd had to do that is I pushed the whole assembly down and under, so it was under the seat here, and then you have to use your fingers to hold up that little clip and that little clip, so that you could click those up and then take this whole thing off. Now I can work to remove that, and then it's basically the same thing that we did on the inside. They provide you with a longer bolt to accommodate the thickness of the belt clip that you're going to have, and you're off to the races. So I'm going to now mess around prying and cutting this piece off, and since I disconnected this wire, I have the luxury of doing this over at the workbench. So how are we going to get this off? I'm going to get the screwdriver under here, twist it up, bend it up a little bit. Then I'm going to take a pair of heavy clippers and I'm going to put it on here and clip away, twist and break. All you need to do is get it to split once, and then you can use a pair of pliers to grab what has split and bend it up out of the way. Very simple. All right, we're back at the car. I've gotten that off. I have my hardware from the kit, which is just a longer version, same threaded bolt. Instead of Torx, it's that 16 millimeter, same as the inside. I've got my clip that's going to go like this. Actually, I got it backwards. I got the wrong clip, so I'll go get the right clip. But let's talk about this for a second. Same as the other side, just a little bit different. It's indexed. There is a big metal post there, and then obviously the hole that the bolt goes through. That metal post goes in there. That's obviously where the bolt goes. So we're going to put this all back together, basically the opposite of how we took it apart, with the exception of this clip, which I have, I think, the wrong way. Should be like that, because it's supposed to follow that up through the tube. So I got to go get the one for the other side, because I want the oblong piece pointing in is how I'm choosing to do it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I just figure the other side is like that, so I might as well keep this side the same. And I'm a small dude. Like, if you're a big dude and you have overflow over the seat, you know what that means. Maybe you want those things not pointing towards you, but I'm nowhere near being near those in the seat. All right, I've got the pin right here facing up, because that's going to go into the seat. I've aligned the little plug. You can hear the two sides clip. Now what I'm going to do is push this down under here. You can see the wire, so you don't want to pull on that too much, but I'm going to work this, because this part here is flexible here. I'm going to hold this with one hand and bend this back to put it down under and up through here. Unfortunately, holding the camera, I can't do that, so I'm going to have to just pause here and get it into position, and then I'll show you how the harness clip and the bolt go in, which are pretty straightforward if you can't figure that out at that point. Not a project you should be doing, but I'll show you anyhow. So once you get it all jammed up in there, that's kind of what it's going to look like. And you might wonder, why'd you powder coat those? That's why, because stuff just wipes right off. So now I'm just drawing that in. I've got that pin in that hole, and this is all aligned the way it's supposed to. You can see here, this piece still rotates freely, as does this. So the goal here is going to be to get this aligned into this opening. So these pieces should go pretty much together, and this should come out this opening for the most part. So that'll take a little bit of ratcheting, getting it a little bit snugger so that it's kind of tight to move back and forth, and then pull the wrench out, push this trim piece in, see how it looks, move this, tighten it up, you know, fidgety futsy stuff, but that should be how it's aligned in the end. So this is what I'm talking about. See how that kind of binds right there? Let's push this back just a little bit. There we go. Nice clean. Now this piece, obviously the seat belt is jammed forward because the seat is, you know, you're not going to ride in a seat that's bent like that. So this will go back. But the real goal here is to get this to come out with the seat belt. and all of the schmutz and stuff will wipe right off. I did powder coat them, like I said, really because I expect them to get a fair amount of wear and tear. They're on the outside. You're going to be putting clips on them, and I figured black paint wasn't going to last as long. First time powder coating, not the best of jobs, but it looks pretty damn good and matches some of the inconsistencies, frankly, in GM's trim. So I'm happy with how they look. So I'm going to finish snugging that down, and then we're going to be ready to reattach this piece, put that Torx piece back in, and get the seat back in place. I think I'll probably vacuum first. That's it. See how nice that looks coming up out of there? Looks almost stock. Some of those schmudges and stuff will wipe off when I clean them up, but the rubber fits around it really nice. You don't have to live with some hellacious looking setup. This inside piece bends down a little bit, so what? To me, that looks a lot better being black than it would if it was this color. This sort of looks, I'm not going to say it looks stock, but it does not look out of place. People are going to be like, oh, why? It's a race car. Who cares? Well, it's also street car, weekend car, go nice places, get ice cream car. We enjoy the Corvette for just all sorts of stuff. Tracking it just happens to be one of the things that I really have enjoyed with it. So I'm very happy with how that looks. I'm happy with how the one on the inside looks. So now I am going to get the vacuum cleaner because I'm a slob and clean up some of this stuff. Then going to remove the two blocks, and I mean, this should be pretty self-explanatory, right? This hole goes on that, and this hole goes on the same one down there. Same for the front, and then I'm going to fight with that NASA-approved freaking complex plug on the front of the seat, and then bolt this seat down, put them two trim pieces back on, which I'll show. They should be pretty straightforward. And that's it. We're off to the races with this side. Repeat the same thing on the other side, but I won't bore you with that. And then I'll kind of conclude here with a everything's installed, this is how it looks video. All right, I lied. I said I was going to do all of this side and then go to the other side. Well, it dawned on me when I started to do this, you really can't. So what I did do is prop up the front of this seat, redo the clip for the power cable. So you push that plug in, it's exactly the opposite. The thing swings back, you squeeze it so it clicks, and then you reach behind it and pull that red tab forward to lock it so it can't unplug. I then got the seat back on all four studs out of the frame after vacuuming a little bit, although I guess it doesn't look like it. I might want to try harder. But you can't do the front because way up under here are where you're going to have to do your ratcheting, and you can't get up in there because the car has no power right now. So I can't get my seat back to where I can do that. So what I'm going to do on this side is clean back here a little bit more, tighten those down, and this side will be done. I'll repeat it on the passenger side, and then I can restore power to the car, bring the seats back, and finish up with the clips on the front. One other thing, this is a feature, I guess. I didn't realize this. It makes sense. These clips here, they don't move, right? So when you go to push your seat forward, that ain't happening. That's all right, but just be aware, when you install these, they do encumber the seat travel. Now, that said, I'm very happy with how this worked in here. You can see that does still make contact with the center tunnel, like a lot of contact. So if you had put the lobe facing out, like some of the photographs show, I think you would have really been gouging this. I think it's still going to leave a mark going across here. What I may do, I usually leave my seat pretty much adjusted, but what I may do when I go to the track and I'm messing around is put like a piece of a flat silicone type cutting board back there, just so that it has something smoother to travel on. I don't know, I'm gonna have to play with that a little bit, but that is super, super tight against that center column. So you definitely want the lobe facing in. So It kind of dawned on me as I was doing the passenger side here. I didn't show how I put the seatbelt back together. So I had saved this bolt into the seatbelt piece because I have a tendency to lose things. The key here is really you want to make sure you've got your seatbelt aligned correctly. This guy comes down, and those clip things are going to go down and then up into place. Now, how do you know you've got this right? Well, just clip the belt. Does that look right? No twists. Looks good, looks comfortable. Perfect. So at this point, this is going to go in that hole there. You're going to tighten it down. I will put a little bit of blue Loctite on here like I've been doing for everything. And then your plastic trim piece just clips right back on. So we've got power back in the car. I ran the seat back and then realized I should probably film. So this is really simple stuff left to do here. We basically got to put the bolts back on the two front seat runners. So we have the nut back on. Tighten this down. I have a stubby wrench that I'm using, and the reason why is just sort of guessing when I took these off the amount of torque that holds them down. I didn't want to over torque them and run the risk of stripping something, or you can see when the seat is out. These are studs that come up through the composite body frame floor panel, so I didn't want to put too much on them, so a stubby sort of prevents me. I can really put some oomph on the stubby, but it's just as much as it's going to do. So then, like I said, this is going to go in there. That's it. Doesn't seem right. Oh, ha. Front there, that opening has to get caught on that clip. So it is a little bit more, there we go. Hold it, push it down, and then back, and it's locked in place. Same thing over on the other side. There's an opening, there's a metal clip, so you're going to catch that on there when you're pushing it back, which I didn't do. Hard to do this stuff with a camera. Give me a little leeway out of this. There we go, all set. So there you have it. Both seats are back and installed. Brey Krause lap clips. You can see what I'm talking about in terms of its impact on the center tunnel. I may, at some point, grab a hold of that and pry it this way a little bit, see if that's even possible. But for the most part, I'm very happy with how things look and the behavior of the stock pieces and parts around these clips. They fit in that channel just about perfectly, coming up through that rubber grommet. So really, that's all there is to it. That's the step-by-step guide to installing these Brey Krause lap clips.